Hello, and welcome to the Seven Ways Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Seven Ways book, on demand and in digital forms. This book gives personality insight and advice based on these very Sefiros. I welcome comments or questions to Rabbi Bailey at the7ways.com. Bailey. This is Yesod Week, and we shall explore this unique Midah. So when when God created the universe, Kabbalah calls this Sefiras HaKelim, the smashing of the vessels. This means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world Yesh Me'ayin, ex nihilo, something from nothing, and there was a sort of cosmic smashing whereby he sent matter and energy and particles throughout the universe, and it is a universe that needs tikkun, it needs a fixing. So the physical items in the universe are meant to be built up by us. The work of man is superior to the work of God in a certain sense, because Kadosh Baruch Hu makes wheat and we make bread. Obviously, Kadosh Baruch Hu set it up this way so that we would continue His work, and we're supposed to, quote unquote, finish the work. To be involved in praying, and the mist in the Gan Eden will bring the precipitation cycle and the agricultural cycle. We're not superior, but we bring the final step. So we make a tikkun. We're supposed to make cosmic fixings, socially, sociologically, with groups, with individuals, with kindness, etc., etc. So far, we've spoken about all of these spheros in terms of klal and prat language, chesed being all-inclusive, and all these different pratim being improved and utilized and separated and polished up. So Yesod as a midah is meant to bring together all the pratim. All the disparate parts are meant to be brought together, and connections are made between the different components. Think about a building. You have all the materials, they get carved out. That's chesed and gevura. And then this whole structure of a building is designed, and the rules of physics are used, and architecture, and the components come together. When they're all getting connected together, that's the Yesod, the construction of it. When people forge a relationship, those two pratim coming together to connect. So initially, Yesod is, allowing the conceptualization of different pieces coming together and then going and improving them. So as Yosef is someone who really, he's the paradigm of Yesod, obviously. He's always thinking of ways to improve the family. According to the Seforno, the sheep business that the brothers are allowing problems to happen in there. Again, we don't directly try to criticize in a petty fashion the great biblical Gedolim, great leaders, but we take lessons from their lives. And in my book, I write about how they both the brothers and Yosef have intelligent approaches to the situation. We'll touch upon that here a little bit, so I don't mean to demean anybody. We don't, like Avram ben Aramam says, out of hand, we don't criticize people, but we're looking for lessons here. So the brothers don't feel that they need to improve the sheep business. They should not connect with Yosef yet, and Yosef wants to connect. He's a man who appreciates relationships. He thinks of the violation of the relationship with his master before he thinks about the rules of adultery. That's what comes out of his mouth when he speaks to Potiphar's wife. He's a master of relationships. He wants to make connection. He's a visionary who wants to get the pratim together, and to do that, he has to remove the bad and improve the system. But that is the first dangerous two-step of Yesod. Yesod-Chesed, sitting, allowing innovative ideas to flow. The lesson for us is we can't just have a system, capital S system, stay as it is. We need to think and brainstorm how to improve it. Chesed should be Yesod, unmitigated connection and improvement. So family, work, shul, synagogue, etc., organizations, they cannot, by definition, just stay as they are. They will develop bugs and get stale. They need to be fixed up. But gevura should be Yesod. You can't think about changing things all the time, because that takes away from the chesed, gevura status quo. There has to be a manageable status quo. And there's a great book I love, Death by Meeting. This Patrick Lencioni consultant, he talks about having efficient meetings. Meetings can be a big headache, meetings about meetings, but the point of it is not just this mundane activity, but that Yosef and Yesod want to bring together, improve systems to make these connections. And Yosef struggles with this. He's so excited to be a visionary and he sees the vision of how things need to improve, and ultimately he's right. It just has to happen later. Gavur Shabi Yesod, he has to have self-control within innovation. And this is where he fails and he gets sold. And until he learns the lesson of controlling his vision and waiting, he cannot succeed. So when he controls himself with Potiphar's wife, when he's controlling himself in the household, he's trustworthy. He gets the keys right away, wherever he is. And then when he's in the dungeon and he learns that he just needs to stay in his place and know his role and not speak up too much, that's when he's rewarded with becoming number 2 in the country. Boom, right away. Yesod under Malchus. And in fact, because he gets a 2, according to Rashi, because he trusts someone that's arrogant, he made a bad connection. He's actually sort of punished, or he's forgotten for 2 years because he trusted someone. He put his faith a little bit into a bohar, an arrogant Egyptian. So therefore, the Egyptian forgets him on purpose. Double language. He forgets him on purpose, and only when it's in the Egyptian's selfish interest is he remembered, and Yosef is redeemed. Otherwise, it seems it would have happened earlier. So the proper connection has to be made. It has to be an intelligent connection. Don't ask for recommendations from someone who is disgruntled and will mess you up. Make proper connections. That's from a real story. So Yosef is selected when he masters Gevur Shabisod. It's a beautiful idea. It's a paradox to control oneself with innovation and to pick the right time is more potent. One cannot go all out, even though the lesson for everyone is there must be innovation. We can't get around it. There will be bugs in the system. Organizations drive people crazy. Sefiras Yesod. So where do we find sort of this artistry of organizing? It's a balance between my vision and yours, getting 2 different peratim to be able to connect. And Sefiras Yesod would be an independent mida, something perfect that can capture the need between 2 people to connect. So there's something called enactments in the field of family therapy, family systems therapy, whereby you don't just sit around and have people complain about each other, but people who are given tasks and experiences can facilitate great change. For example, someone goes to a weekend retreat. This can really jolt someone into a different situation versus staying at home and just reading a self-help book. That will not be as impactful. So an enactment in family therapy is a unique homework that perhaps is given either in session or out of session in order to get people to advance their communication and their experience. So on a simple level, getting 2 people to talk to each other instead of the therapist, a simple enactment, but something could be more elaborate. For example, a young boy, the therapist felt that his father was not as involved with the family, and the mother didn't know what to do. So the boy, the therapist gathered, acted out, and used to put filth on the walls. He used to make a mess. So what the therapist did is he had the boy spend time with his father, cleaning up the filth, or the boy cleaned it up, and then they would go to the backyard and spend time together burying the filth in the backyard. And this paradoxically, created this bond between them, because instead of yelling in opposition, it gave the boy that attention that he craved, healthy attention, and it gave the father responsibility to be with the boy, alleviated the mother's stress about it. So that's a sort of type of an enactment. An individual one, a famous story, I put it on the blog. Somebody couldn't fall asleep. They had insomnia. So the therapist said, whenever you can't fall asleep at night, go try to mop the kitchen floor. So the person was cured pretty quickly. So, sometimes we need an experience to change a connection. Bringing it together to the disparate parts within us and bringing together groups of people. That's the team building exercises, off-site exercises. And even though people don't like what Yosef did to his brothers, it was extremely potent, because the whole problem is he didn't think the brothers would be willing to sacrifice themselves and to change to save a brother. They sold him. So he put them in a situation where there was an enactment that one of them, Yehuda, people had to sacrifice for Binyamin to show that the brotherly connection is the most important. And that's when he revealed himself, causing the change, and him causing change at the right time, not too early. So it's a beautiful two-sided enactment, Sefiras Sheba Yesod, using creative experience in order to facilitate change. On to Netzach Sheba Yesod and Hod Sheba Yesod. So, Netzach Sheba Yesod. Uniquely, Yosef HaTzadik, he's called Tzadik. He's called actually a righteous person because of his self-control in intimate matters. And also, I believe it's Rav Tzadok brings down sources that he's actually, he's like he's, even though there were 11 brothers initially before Binyamin, he's like separated as a Cohen. He's actually considered a priest, not as a full status of a Cohen, but as someone uniquely special set aside to lead, he and his sons. So even though we've been speaking about extremely mundane matters, we have to remember that Yosef, as Netzach Sheba Yesod, and Hod Sheba Yesod, Yehoshua, these people are trying to bring together the Shiftei Kol. They're trying to bring together the holy tribes of Kadosh Baruch Hu, the righteous people. We try to bring together the Jewish people within community and synagogue. And even though it seems to be a hechsher mitzvah, it seems to be preparation for a mitzvah, it's still holy work to make a tikkun within relationships within creation. These are the halachas of bedam lechavero, interpersonal laws. And within a system, if you look in the management consultant books, it's important to have morality and rules within a system, to have a motto and a credo, principles, to have something that a person is serving and doing greater work, finding meaning, sort of like Viktor Frankl, logotherapy, people having meaningful work. And paradoxically, Gevurah Sheba Yesod, Netzach Sheba Yesod, having rules and sort of a morality, so to speak, ideology, a credo, a motto at work seems restrictive, but actually those rules in the office or system and that morality opens up a person. It unlocks a person in a group. It's a seemingly paradox, but those are necessary things for a system. Another important issue is to lean into team conflict. People hate conflict with their family, with groups, but crucial conversations. In order to actually improve connection, we need to engage in healthy conflict. So bringing forth problems, calling people out, but in a constructive way in order to get to an answer and moving on. And if we think we can avoid it, it doesn't happen. Systems develop bugs. Hod Sheba Yesod. Where do we find emotions within Yesod? So it's really interesting. Yosef is a sort of a therapist in the jail. He sees that their faces are ra'im, and he asks why they're zoafim. He sees that people are looking really bad, and he says, why are you so downtrodden today? Beautiful midrash rabbah on this whole section. Yosef's called Safnas Panech by Paro. He's called Avrech. He's a father. A Rex. He's a king. And Safnas Panech, he brings forth the hidden. He brings forth hidden words and feelings and tells them to people in a way they can hear and they can handle. Psycho-emotional health. You must get emotions in order to activate full psychology, full individual potential. As a therapist, I can tell you this is exactly spot on. Yosef really brought that to the world and creation. So it's absolutely essential to heal trauma, emotional problems, get those feelings in order, not to put the kibosh on them, but to live with them, to get the psycho-emotional health. And even though there were divine elements to those dreams, Yosef spoke to them in a way they could hear, and perhaps the people, this is my theory, perhaps those people were not having nevuah prophecy. Perhaps they knew they were guilty or innocent, and their dream was their angst inside. And Yosef interpreted the dream, and he knew what would happen based on the king's, Paro's normal plan for pardons or murders. Interesting theory. In any event, it's a paradigm for us. Hod Sheba Yesod, Yehoshua bin Nun, master of Bina and intuition, as Malchus Sheba Hod Sheba Yesod, Karner Im Karnav, he was a master at being strong, and the Midrash says he was able to walk across from each person based on their personality. So we need to remember that we need to get our emotions in order to function. We need to know our unique personality and try to figure out our purpose in the world to make a tikkun between us and the peratim around us. What is your personality? Discover yours. Excellent. Yesod-Chesed, deep personal connection, uniting disparate parts for a deeper purpose. The Aver is a symbol for Yesod. It's the connection on all levels, personal, intimate, and group. That is Yesod-Chesed, the connection there. Remember, relationships and important connections. Nurture those relationships, dear listener, with communication, with experience, with sharing, with Torah and morality, even going out on a trip. Those are all ways to not forget about relationships. Relationship is a holy thing. So Malchus should be sewed. To be a true connector and influencer, you have to try to master all aspects of speaking, feeling, thinking, introvert, extrovert. And that is a daunting task. But if you do want to truly influence people, try to go where they are. Figure out what is their what is their situation. And you can influence. So, despite being less powerful than Malchus in the aggregate, Yesod actually has an advantage over Malchus. Paro needs Yosef. Yosef and Yesod, this Mida gives the skill of understanding people, bringing them together. Someone can be a powerful Malchus individual, but if they don't have that structure and morality underneath them, they will not succeed in bringing salvation. This is the story of Osniel ben Kenaz versus David HaMelech within Sefer Shoftim. Osniel ben Kenaz, who's from Yehuda, he's a powerhouse, warrior of warriors, landowner. He listens to his brother Kalev's challenge, defeats the bad guys, and gets the property, gets his niece in marriage. But he doesn't become that Mashiach, that Mashiach Melech, the anointed king, because he did not have all the 7 steps of the Sefiros behind him. He was a flash in the pan, wonderful HaTzadik warrior that brought peace for 4 decades, but he was not David HaMelech. In order to get to a truly potent Malchus, one has to have all the steps beneath them, all the morality, the emotional, the group, the self-control, the uniting of the parts, that Yesod, bringing together the parts, which is the power within Yesod. And that's what David HaMelech had, and it came at the exact right time. No kingship connected to the next one, even a hair's breadth. So the lesson today is that engaging in relationship health is a holy activity, and we are bringing together the Kalim, the Sefiras of Kalim, in our own realm. We unite and we fix. We don't take the whole world upon our shoulders, but whatever fixings, cosmic fixing we can do, that is what we do. We remember relationships and connection, and we go to improve that. If we need an experience, we do it. If we need to bring something different to our family, we must do it. And before we bring strong innovation, we will really think about it and have self-control. And we daven that Mashiach ben Yosef will come to unite all the disparate parts in our society. Thank you for listening. Feel free to send comments or questions to Rabbi Bailey at the7ways.com.